For this video, I'd like to share with you one of my sketchbooks from 7th grade. For those of you that watched my recent middle school story video, a lot of you asked to see the sketchbook that sparked the events in that story. So, without further ado, here is my 7th grade sketchbook in all its glory. Of course, it's not the only sketchbook I had then, but when I moved to California in high school, I threw away most of my old sketchbooks, which I now deeply regret. There aren't a whole lot of drawings in this sketchbook, unfortunately, but hopefully it's still fun to look at. I've also redrawn a couple of my favorites just to see how much I've improved since then. So to start off, we have Mew Ichigo from Tokyo Mew Mew with the redraw version on the right. I remember being really proud of how this one turned out. As you can see, I did that super lazy drawing technique where I hid the arms behind the back so I wouldn't have to draw the hands. However, in the redraw, I made sure to show the hands, and although they still look kinda wonky, I like this pose much better. I feel like it looks much more Ichigo-like compared to the stiffness of the original. Next up, we have Chi from Chobits. I was really into Chobits at this time. Is it Chobits or Chobits?
Chobits.
I was really into Chobits at this time. I'm not really sure what pose she's in. I can't remember if I intended to have her lying down or standing up, but for the redraw, I changed the pose, but kept the outfit because I thought it was cute. I also wanted to place a bit more focus on her hair because there's so much of it, and in all of the Chobits art books, they put a lot of focus on Chi's hair. This next page is just a page of doodles from Spanish class, nothing really interesting here. And here's a picture I drew of myself. I wrote, "This is my first completed sketchbook. The drawings suck, but I tried." I kind of have the same mindset, but at least I've gotten better since then. This next one was a couple OC that I made, which was very heavily inspired by Train and Saya from Black Cat. I never drew them again after this. This one was another one-time OC I made of a cute little schoolgirl. I redrew her in a similar pose. So I've gotten a lot of comments from people asking for drawing tips. And I have to admit, I think one of the most important tips I can give is to work on anatomy. I think knowing how bodies are supposed to look in a variety of poses and angles is one of the most valuable skills, and I deeply regret not trying harder to improve on my anatomy in my younger years, because once I got to high school, I was able to draw a pretty face or really nice hair, but my bodies looked super wonky. Even now, I struggle with making my bodies look proportional, but it's something I'm trying to work on. And this one is my super dark and edgy OC. Suicidal Angel, I called her. I didn't want to keep her Guy Fieri dress flames, but this is a redraw, not a redesign. I wanted to give her a sadder expression in the redraw, and I had a whole backstory made up for her written on the back. She's probably one of the most thought out OCs in my sketchbook. So the story behind her is she was supposed to be created to be a messenger in heaven, but the devil sabotaged her creation process and tainted her soul. So as a result, she was exiled from heaven and her lifespan was reduced to that of a human's. The devil offered her a deal by having her drag souls down to hell for him, and in exchange, the remaining lifespan of the human would be added onto her own. You can tell I was heavily influenced by Death Note and Hellgirl at this time. So her whole shtick was that she'd visit people at their most depressed states and offer them a peaceful death. If they accepted, she would give them a poison, and upon drinking it, their soul would be dragged to hell with their remaining lifespan added onto her own. But if they said no, then their remaining lifespan would be deducted from her own. So her job was sort of like gambling every time. Despite how edgy it seems, I still think it's kind of an interesting story, and I don't know if I'd ever want to go back to her, but if I did, I would definitely want to redesign her outfit. On this page, I wrote, "This just proves that I'm not even trying to draw anymore." Don't know why I was so negative back then, or why I wasted an entire page on this. My best friend Carmen was obsessed with Train from Black Cat, so here he is, and here she is on the bottom. And Carmen, if you're watching this, I hope you're enjoying this walk through memory lane. This page is probably my favorite in this entire sketchbook. I absolutely loved Fruits Basket and all of its interesting characters. And for those of you who are wondering, my favorite character growing up was Kyo. Anyways, for those of you who are asking if I actually drew porn, no, I didn't, and this is the lewdest thing that innocent little Emmy could draw. I thought maybe I would feel liberated if I drew something even remotely sexual, but even then I did a total cop-out in the description right next to her. In my redraw, she looks closer to the classic Playboy bunny. And in the description next to her, I wrote something like, "She's not supposed to be a Playboy bunny, so don't get your hopes up, you pervert." And what does this page say? Happiness. Happiness my ass. Oh, little Emily was not having a good day that day, probably. Not a good day. And these are some more assorted doodles. Nothing too crazy to look at here. And here is some more Tokyo Mew Mew fan art. I drew Ichigo and Mint in casual clothing, and of course the proportions are a little weird as always. Here is yet another page of Tokyo Mew Mew fan art, except this time it's lettuce and pudding. And can we just discuss this wonky arm I drew on pudding? As I mentioned before, anatomy is really important, and the anatomy in this drawing is all over the place. Okay, this one is my last Tokyo Mew Mew fan art piece, and this time it's Sakura and Barry in bathing suits. As you can tell, the heads are kind of too big, and I'm not really sure what's going on with their limbs, but it's definitely not pleasing to the eye. And here's some Princess Tutu fan art. I actually have never watched Princess Tutu, but my friend Christine really loved it, so I drew Ahiru for her. And here's Sakura from Naruto Shippuden. Again, I've never actually watched Shippuden. I only watched a little over 200 episodes of Naruto, and then I stopped, but I did really like Sakura as a character. And here's a page I've apparently labeled Drawing Mistakes. I drew Death Note characters as bunnies. I don't know why I thought this page was bad, because even now I still think it's actually pretty cute. This character was an OC created by my friend Maria. She made 2 OCs. This one was named Scarlet, and the other one was named Midnight. They too had a sort of a strange, edgy backstory where they were like the daughters of the devil, and they were trying to fulfill some sort of strange prophecy. We spent a lot of time in the library fleshing out their personalities and their story, and if I had to compare them to existing characters, I'd say they're probably most similar to Panty and Stocking. I didn't spend that much time on the redraw because Maria's probably never going to use these OCs ever again, so as you can probably tell, I kind of gave up after I started Midnight. This one is a drawing I did of a pearl-obsessed mermaid, and the redraw is, of course, on the right. I tried keeping the same pose, but I wanted to make her tail more detailed and her body a little less awkward looking. I really liked the mermaid aesthetic, and even now I love pearls, so if I had a mermaid persona, she would definitely be constantly adorned with pearls. I'm not entirely happy with how the redraw turned out, and if I were to do it again, I would definitely try to make her a bit more elegant looking. And here's a page of just math problems. It was probably my homework. Not sure why I wasted an entire sketchbook page on this. I'm assuming I forgot my notebook that day or something. And here's some more Death Note fan art. I drew way more Death Note than what you see here, but they're all lost and forgotten sketchbooks that have been thrown away. I drew Elle playing with a Misa doll. I think 12-year-old me secretly shipped them because I thought Light was a little too mean to her. This next page is just a drawing of food. I loved food back then, and I still love food now. Nothing at all has changed from then. This one was a 3-minute assignment in art class. I had to draw a child walking a dog that was larger than they were. As you can tell, I was not at all good at drawing animals, and I still suck at drawing animals, so that's still something that I have to work on. And last but not least is another 3-minute drawing assignment where we had to draw 5 different types of flowers. This assignment was really boring, and I'm not really sure what else I'm supposed to say about this one. Anyways, that is the end of my sketchbook tour, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry if the drawings weren't very interesting, but if you stuck around for this long, thank you. I hope to film many more sketchbook tours in the future, and I hope you'll still be here by then.